volunteer hours, and our meeting last time was 1 hour, so a total of 18.5 hours. And then,
Whatever the meeting was,
1 hour,
1 hour and then 42 hours.
wow.
Since I last reported, I've 30 hours of plus meetings,
Okay,
plus this meeting.
all right, well,
Just the meeting.
okay, sounds good.
I hope it's clean up at the firefighter thing,
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
so 45 minutes.
How about 3/4 more?
Yeah.
Let's round it up, an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, your name is?
I'm Liza, EHLE, first name Liza. And I run a company called Woodward Gardens LLC.
Oh, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we got that done. So, any comments from the public? I don't think we have everybody on Zoom, do
No, I just checked. Nobody on Zoom.
we? All right. And then, Liza, just you up next?
That's that quick, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along.
You're the first thing on the agenda. so
Okay.
Pull up your PowerPoint. Sorry, I should have gotten.
We can certainly have discussion on any of these slides. I just wanted to give you guys some visuals. I don't know, not everybody knows my background, but I was a landscape contractor, municipal landscape contractor for about 30 years here in the city of Bandon. And I have a degree in architecture and urban planning. And so one of the things on my bucket list is to doll up this town a little bit. Before I go, I want to leave better than I found it. So I've done that in a few different ways. Right now, I'm working heavily indoors. I just recently took this amazing trip across the country in a giant figure eight on the lower half of the country and went about 7,000 miles. And what I made a point of was to go to communities about the size of ours, and particularly coastal communities, for example, the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and along the Georgia coast and the Florida Panhandle and all down through parts of the Gulf Coast. And one of the things I was looking for was what's missing here, like what are they doing that's different, better, feels right, that we could use here. And so, although I didn't bring a bunch of pictures to overwhelm you with that, I got a ton of ideas. I don't want to steal anybody else's ideas necessarily. And we have a whole different environment here. And we also have a whole different kind of tourism than has there. And we have, I think, a really different kind of community. A lot of the areas in the Outer Banks and Gulf Coast are these sort of hurricane homes that are right on the shoreline, and our beaches are not public. And there's just this whole different feeling in terms of that. But some of the really cool things I saw were in some of the communities that were historic, like Mobile, Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and some places that I went through. And their history, was something that they kind of anchored to, which I think we could do more with here. We have such a depth of history here for education purposes and so forth. And then, of course, things like Washoe Shore that have already started the education and environment aspect of that. We are like, it's so raw here to see it. And it's so developed on the East Coast and in the Gulf Coast that you don't really feel connected to the tide pools and all that stuff like we have here. So I came home and kind of went, actually, if we put art in here, it could be a lot more earthy and a lot better done than the stuff that we've seen. I also went to places like Rancho Mirage and Palm Springs and places like that where there's tons of money, unlimited budget, and I looked at kind of what they were doing and stuff that worked and didn't work, and people interacting with art was one of the things I was looking for, which was really interesting. In a few of the streetscapes that I saw, it was really like people were really engaged with it, and especially just to see people stopped in their tracks and tuning into this thing and giving it 10 or 15 minutes sometimes and taking photographs with it and making a memory with it, and all of that was like a whole engagement on a human level that you don't see when people are snapping shots of the sunset or beautiful offshore rocks or whatever. It's like a moment in time when they were in our community. So that's kind of what came out of that. So There's some criteria that I looked at, and I actually spoke to a couple of sort of city manager, public works guys, and a few people. My husband needs, when we travel together, I like jump out of the car and run up to people that you shouldn't talk to and ask them about their jobs all the time. And a couple things, and I see this a lot in the kind of work that I do as a landscaper, but all of the places that I saw art was in these really bizarre places that were unused spaces in a community. And there's lots of gaps and holes if you look around. And then I saw a lot of stuff that was done on just average, like we've seen in Coos Bay, utility boxes, but also power poles and street signs. And there was just anything was okay as a bench, and it was just really bizarre. I mean, people were like so creative, I couldn't, really grasp how they came with those concepts. But I also noticed that the stuff that's along the roadway, and in talking to people that worked on the roadways there, it's really important that the person be traveling less than 30 miles an hour to be able to respond for that. So when thinking about art along Highway 101, there's a limitation there, and certainly ODOT would be a partner in that, somebody you can talk to, about what they want in that element. But there can be things, and we did see a lot of that, of just sort of 30 mile an hour to 50 mile an hour, just art that you could see that was very huge on some of these two-lane roads that we went on and in some of these communities, and whether they're in mural format or some repeated sculptures that you saw similar to the seals that you see on the north coast. There are things that you can view that way. So considering this basic criteria, driving and pedestrian hazard, vandalism and wear and tear, because of the coastal communities, you saw a lot of rusting stuff, which was actually just fine. They didn't put it over concrete, so you didn't have a stain. And they had a lot of rusting metal out there, which was just fine. It was okay, And they used some plastics in that. We saw some paint that was deteriorated. We saw paint that was overlaid. We saw a lot of glued on stuff that was there. And we saw a lot of powder coated things that were obviously more professionally made, and lots and lots of glass starting to show up, which is really amazing. So that's something that triggered me to talk to Laura about that, because glass sparkles, it's weatherproof, it's easy to adhere. It's pretty vandal proof. If it did get painted on or whatever, you can clean it. So there was a lot of glass starting to show up in some of the higher end community art things. Sometimes that glass was put high enough that it would take somebody standing on a bumper or whatever, or placed in a place where it was above being able to be taken off. So that was kind of interesting. We saw that. We also saw it used down low on benches and things like that, or inserted into benches. So the weatherproof materials, obviously, then maintenance requirements to look good. I talked to some of the guys in public works in some of these communities, and they were saying, little more litter gets there. And so we move trash cans over by there. We see people sitting next to them. Yeah, we have vandalism, but we kind of sort of flushed a lot of that out. They have a pressure washer, that it goes through and cleans periodically, about annually, on some of the stuff on the beach. Particularly those people, they said, sand piles up on it, seagulls poop on it. There's all these different, things that they kind of encountered that was part of that. But most of it, they said, if you could just take a brush and a bucket of water to it, it really helps them a lot, because they can stop and just do a quick job on it and not require that. Unless there's vandalism, they sometimes have to get out the heavy chemicals or, whatever. And then materials cost. We saw the difference between high school projects that in some cases all the way up to the highest end stuff, like in Rancho Mirage, where it's all commissioned art and things like that. So being able to source the materials locally and also do manufacturing. So for example, I stopped in and talked to the guy that's taken over from Ron Evans, who's a metal guy there. And I said, do you have any metal scraps you want to get rid of? Because I know they get money for that. And he's like, oh my God, please. Come and get it. It's like all these pieces like that. I was like, well, I want to build stick figures out of these. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem here. And he's like, starts to load my pickup. And I'm like, no, not right now. I mean, like in the future. And he's like, yeah. And he said, who's going to weld it? And I said, well, maybe the shop class at the high school, or I know how to weld, or, and he said, well, I mean, if you want to do a work day or something, we could work something out. And I was like, so, I mean, having a local person to be able to interact and be able to say that we could do it locally. And then the question is it interesting to others, and is it fun and flexible? Those are the things that, you look at, like, can can a 3-year-old engage it? Can a 103-year-old engage it? Can everybody get to it, and see it? And is it something that maybe you can have a teaching moment like Angela's art is, you know, to something where you're learning about marine trash, or we saw this a crazy thing where you could jump into these plastic water bottles. With like this big bin, kind of like those, you know, the balls in there, but you could jump into this thing with plastic water bottles and everybody was doing it. Everybody, old, young, was crazy. So it was just saying, you know, how many plastic water bottles, if this was the average, what an average store would sell in a 2-week period is what they were trying to show in water bottle usage. A local store would sell this many water bottles in an average, whatever. Kind of an interesting concept, maybe need to stop and think. Okay, so I just did a quick drive around Bandon. And there's this crazy, in the new parking lot, there's this crazy dead spot. Do you know why it is, Dana? Is it not big enough for a car, or is it because they need to get the propane tank behind there?
I think, well, it could be all of those things, and we also had some drainage issues. So
Okay.
maybe,
So, but
I'm
there's
not
this
sure.
great new, brand new parking lot, which would be really easy to put a variety of things in there. And especially with a mural background, it's like almost a mini pocket park kind of an
Mhm.
experience there to walk across and say, what's here? Or it could be motorcycle parking, but we could do a motorcycle sculpture there. And still have room for a motorcycle to fit next to it, for example, or bicycle rack, okay, in that situation. This other one at the lower corner, this is right by the post office. How many thousand people a day go through that little corner right there? Could we paint the hydrant, decorate the pole? You know, it's not on federal property, it's on city property. So, but, you know, who's running that show? We are, you know, in terms of that. And I even saw some really cool stuff put on those guide wires. And I'll show you a piece of something that I saw that was on those guide wires. That was a kinetic sculpture that moved in the wind. That was kind of neat. And weighed nothing. And then an opportunity like, think of how many parents go to the school every day and pick up their kids and how busy the teen center is. And the teen center is really near and dear to me because I actually built that building and started the 501c3 and everything. But that dead grassy area in the front there could be a great interactive thing, even if there was some chalkboard chalk that was, or something like that, so that there was colorful and it just felt like it was engaged. If the kids were waiting, there may be a bench scenario there that doesn't interfere with parking. Also as a safety barrier of some sort. We saw a lot of art that was on chain link fence that was, you know, put up there, so there could be a real simple safety barrier where things were attached to it or people were able to leave things on it. We saw a whole fence that was done just with people's wishes. And there was a marker there that with the public works guys changed every day. And you could write your wishes down on this thing. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of neat. And then this little spot here up in the upper right corner, that's the corner across from Price and Pride. And it is a bank parking lot. Obviously, there's a bench on the other side. There used to be a trash can there. There isn't any longer. It occasionally attracts homeless in that corner. So the idea of maybe some art or something in there makes it more lived in, distracts a little bit from the fact that it may be kind of problematic corner. Gets a lot of traffic in there, but it could make it feel a lot more lived in, and the bank could be a partner in that, or even a sponsor in a situation like that. Plus we have a green utility box. That's always a fun opportunity to embellish or glue onto. That's another thing. They don't let us paint it. Can we glue stuff on it?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think just quickly, you can paint them.
Yeah.
You just, I think you can't cover up some of the important parts.
Right.
so
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
room for creativity.
Right. And this has always killed me because I maintained this for 35 years, this little stretch of gravel at City Park. These are the two ends of City Park, but my God, it's a blank canvas. Really, I mean, people walk through there. There's a ton of dog traffic, human traffic, there's vehicular traffic. It's less than 20-mile-an-hour zone, so people will see it and engage it. It's maintained as a landscape. There's lots of blank area there. It's a great place for a bench when people are walking. We really don't have that many benches in Old Town besides, in City Park, besides clustered in a certain area. So this would be a really easy place to do something like that. That would be very easy to manage. And it's just Freeman for it. It's just a blank canvas is what it is, really. So, okay. And then, you know, Old Town, I know is under study right now. The design firm is kind of looking at some of that thing, and I know it's been an ongoing thing in all the history of the 40 years I've been in Bandon, you know, that everybody says everybody forgets about Uptown, because everybody's focused on Old Town, but, it is indeed the gateway to that, and a lot of us locals go down for coffee, or, you know, especially me, I've got a Mariner husband, I'm down there at the port all the time. I appreciate what the port has done on a daily basis, I'm always gobsmacked when I go down there that everybody's so engaged in there. But to get to the port, they gotta go by this corner that never got landscaped on the new parking lot, I get it, there's no budget. But can we put down some landscape fabric and put some rock over it, put a cool sculpture there,
Is
paint?
that the whistling corner?
Yeah, the one where the
We
whistling.
should do something that can play off, if you ever go by the one
Yeah.
that is blowing, it whistles
That-
all the
yeah,
time.
with the whole corner.
Very
whistle,
loud.
Yeah,
I love that.
and the station gets a lot of traffic right across the street. We've got a great mural right there. We could pick up on the mural thing and even almost bring it over and put it on that box. You know, there, so there's a lot of really, and it's got a ton of wires and signs, so there's a possibility for, what I saw was they took PVC, 4-inch PVC and sliced it vertically, and then just wrapped it around those post bases, and it was no harm to the post. It could be removed if Public Works needed to do something, and the PVC was sanded lightly. It was just literally drain pipe, sanded lightly and then painted, and things glued on it, and holes put, you know, drilled in it and things attached to it, so it's
Yeah.
fluttering, and we saw all kinds of cool stuff done with that. So the gathering or art space, this is right across from Tony's Crab Shack, across from the arcade, and across from, so a lot of it makes people want to get out of their car and van, and I run 2 Airbnb, so I hear a lot of tourist chatter from my guests in my Airbnb. And when they see all that activity at Tony's and the Crab Shack and the fish tank, they want to get out and be part of it. And so here is this great big huge paved dead spot right across from the arcade, right across from Diane's bait shop right there, and Tony's. And, you know, guys are coming out of the arcade and sitting and smoking cigarettes and everything, but this could be a great cluster of benches or even a table or two that was made out of concrete that just sat in this area that's a dead zone. Wouldn't impede traffic, anything else, but a couple people could stop there. Especially, I'm just gonna be sexist here, but the wives that are shopping, the husbands have nothing to do and they want a place to be left alone for a second and twiddle on their phone or whatever. They'll leave their wives alone to shop a little longer, which is good for our economy, or vice versa, however that works. But the reality is that almost every business down in Old Town should have a bench right near it, because there's somebody's inside, somebody's bored, and they're on the outside and they need a place to sit. So that's, and yes, it's windswept, but yes, there could be also an art piece that is a windbreak. So there could be a small mural on posts or whatever that you tuck behind, kind of like the glass that they have now at the port that you can tuck behind. And then I don't know who made the decision to use baby poop brown as the tint in the new ODOT.
Oh, that did.
Did they? Wow, that is the world's worst concrete.
Mhm.
I'm married to a concrete contractor, but it's the worst color I've ever seen in my entire life. Could we please paint this?
Where is that?
It's right in the entrance to Old Town under the arches.
Oh, right.
They finished all that area and they made it baby poop brown.
And then they did that weird rock landscaping.
I know, that was also very bizarre. Anyway, we could mosaic this, we could paint it, it could change annually. It could have benches on it, it could be, they left a little planter and worked around that, so we got a potential here. And then there's been lots of dead landscapes, which has always annoyed me down in Old Town, but because there's so much pedestrian traffic, but there's a wax myrtle that I planted as a 1-gallon plant on the right side of that lower left picture there. And there's a little dead landscape in there that is, fortunately, has been weeded down at this point, but it's often in 4-foot high waving grass. So it's a great opportunity right there because the chocolatier is there and the Sassy Seagull's right across the street. Again, a bench opportunity, an art opportunity, stuff hanging out of the tree, kinetic sculptures that hang down from the trees with glass, you know, that could be secured. There's lots and lots of potential in all these little voids and so forth. That would be something for the eye to catch. So the question is, does it meet the criteria? So these are the plainest of concrete benches, for example. And this is actually from the trip that I took. And the curved one was at the Storytelling Center in Jonesboro, Tennessee. And the upper ones were in a park that we stopped at for 5 minutes, and they were, my husband's a concrete contractor, he's like, wow, that's a no-brainer. You can make the forms once and repeat it all over town, basically, in about 2 minutes. And you can grind a skateboard on it, you could paint on it, you could do whatever. So this meets that criteria. You're looking at, you know, 50 to 100 bucks worth of concrete, basically, in there, and one and done, you know, in terms of that. So those are really simple. You can get fancier, obviously, than that. So, and can we have some fun with it? Let's look at some of the ways that concrete benches basically have been treated going forward. Here's just a few ideas, more complex or simple. These little, we saw some really cool tables, not like this pedestal one that could be knocked over by the public, but one that was literally the same concept as the bench, but a vertical column, which you can do with sonotubes. And was it just a vertical column? You could set a coffee cup or whatever on it and that. So that you could put a table gathering space like that. And we saw some of this art like this in public areas, and people would sitting on it, taking pictures with it, you know, engaging and resting, you know, kind of in that scenario. So and then the imprinting in the upper one, that can be done. We did some of this in Port Orford. I did an inmate project down in Port Orford, and we had wet concrete, and we made some fish, salmon images out of plywood, and then we just pressed them into the wet concrete as the concrete was drying, just to catch that bit of that, and then we rubbed some patina into there, and that's the look that you get, is that the upper one with the leaf. So that's a really totally vandal proof, no anything that could be ever damaged. It's built into the concrete. Takes 10 minutes to do. You have to catch the concrete at the right moment. So that's about it, you know. Then the idea of pocket parks, so we looked at a few areas like that. And so some of the big installations that you see, big money in some of these things, and these artists are, you know, that hundreds of thousands of dollars to do these installations. But we saw some really cool stuff, like these are old power poles on the right-hand side. These were old power reclamation or power poles that they stuffed into the ground using an auger. And then some of them had carving on them, some had painting on them. There was lots of stuff glued to them, drilled into them, so that there was recesses into them, very complicated. And they could change, you know, you could literally have a contest where, you know, you adopt a pole and you do an art thing every year that way. But it was neat to see in places like this, the human scale part of it, people will walk into the middle of that and get their picture taken. So there's just a moment where they stop and so that's there. We just saw 5 dead places where you could do that instantly, and it would be zero cost. And there's tons of that kind of stuff. And we have natural logs here too that we could use. I mean, it's just really not a big deal. When it's time to remove them, some of them have loops in the top so that the power company can just pull them straight out and remove them. They were in holders so that they were changeable. So the artist could work on them separately and then install them afterwards if they're a uniform. And they actually make a peeler core that is down at Currydale Farms, for example. That's a regular regulation size peeler core. They make some pretty good hefty ones about this size. They're like $22 a piece.
Hardwood thing.
No, that we're talking about their inner cores of trees, and you use them for fence posts.
Okay.
But they have some really hefty ones of those. So, and those are again at human scale, 8 to 10 feet, you know, something you can walk through. You could put them at different heights and so forth. Really cheap art, I'm just saying. And then go back, these stick figure pieces, we saw something more elaborate than that as part of a historic tour. And everywhere there was one of these people that was there, and they were all like leaning, talking, gesturing people all through this town. Everywhere there was one of those, there was a historic sign right next to it and explaining what you were looking at. And there were people all up and down the street, this historic district that we're in, that were leaning on these people, getting their photos taken, and, you know, put their arms around them or sticking their fingers up their nose. I mean, it was just crazy, you know, to see, but they were having a moment in the community, and they were experiencing something, and they were taking in that historical information at the same time. So I think it was really a valuable teaching moment. So that's this little stick figure is similar to that. Notice how the guy is mimicking the stick figure there. So again, these are the simplest of simple ideas. This stop sign thing, I had actually seen it on the internet or something. But I saw a community that had done stuff like that to every single stop sign in a neighborhood, and the neighbors had done it. And they all had done a little bit different version of it, but they had every single stop sign in the neighborhood had something on it like that. So, and I thought the beachy one on the left there was a really simple, very beautiful graphic. And then of course, you know, the painting, yes, it has to be refreshed or pressure washed off, but I don't know who's restoring the ones on the septic, on the sewer tank.
Vicky was restoring.
Is she working on those? Yeah. So the, you know, question like that is we can see, I don't know, every 10 years or so, they seem to do that. So foot traffic is more of a problem down, but up, they can be very small, murals that are just here and there, like on power boxes. The other thing that we saw, again, there's the people, version of that, on the right-hand side, but we saw this chalkboard idea, being used where, and obviously that was under some sort of cover, so it didn't get wet. And there's just a flip box of chalk there. And, there was one that was like, I want to do this before I die. And one that said, this is what I hope for the world. And then there was one on an abandoned building that says, I wish this building was. And then all these opportunities to what the building could have been, you know? So it was kind of cool, and it changed, and there was like an eraser, and I actually talked to the public works guy there, and he says, you know, we come by maybe once a month, and he said, there'll be something on there that's not appropriate or whatever. He said, but we just drive by every day and take a glance at it. And if it's super bad, we get out with a wet mop and just mop it off if it needs to be kind of refreshed. And he said some person just drew the lines and wrote the thing at the top, and otherwise it's a blackboard, you know? And he said, all we did was use chalkboard paint and did it at Public Works and screwed it on the side of an empty building.
That's cool.
So yeah, it was great. And then the thing off to the left, we saw a couple of places where they were doing this. These are pixel murals. So, and this can be done with anything from bottle caps to any other found object or whatever, but basically each side has a different color, and based on how the group moves the thing to get a different pixelated picture in there. So people made oceanscapes and people made trees and things like that out of it, but everybody could kind of work on it, and everybody would. We also saw a place where on Saturdays, this was in the Outer Banks, on Saturdays, they have these paintings in progress program. They call it paintings in progress program. And there's 3 panels, and somebody starts a painting, and there's kind of like basic materials, brushes with some water and some, you know, paint colors that are on like a palette thing that's sort of attached to that with a lid on it. So it was almost like somebody had taken Rubbermaid and kind of figured out how to do this thing. And on Saturdays, you could go down there and add to these paintings. Basically, the materials would be there. You could go down on Saturdays, and these paintings were in progress, and you know, they're very different styles, and kids were slapping stuff, and then it would dry, and somebody would paint something cool over the top of some kid's scribble. And so every Saturday they had this thing going on in the Outer Banks in this little enclosed area that was a dead spot. Kind of a cool concept, I thought. So. And then those things on the right-hand side, there look like Dale Chihuly glass, things. Those are made out of water bottles. Yeah, those are made out of water bottles and colored. And those things, we actually saw a version of that hanging off of those power pole, guidelines. And they were kinetic sculptures.
We did that in
Basically.
our art class, you just put some paint inside the bottle. and
Yeah.
then Spiral cut the bottle and make those.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but they were all in the wind, they were all on these poles, these things, and they were up high, so you couldn't really access them or anything, but they were very dynamic. It was crazy. I had to stop and look and see what they were made out of, and it was old junky water bottles. There was a sign on the pole that said, this is one of our art recycle moments, you know, it's the same town that had the plastic water bottle jump in the middle thing. They were really into the plastic water bottle deal. They were at the coast. And then this cool bicycle fence thing, I was thinking something like that up by the bike store. But you know, or there are 2 bike stores, you know, but something like that, that really says, think about a second, you could bike in this town. You know, a lot of people don't really get that. And I see a lot of parked cars with bicycles on the backs of them that the bikes don't get off of the, you know, so that's an opportunity to get people to think about the biking thing, and they can be changed, and we certainly have a lot of dead bicycles. And that's a picture there of that painting in progress, sort of idea. I took that one off the internet. Some of these places where I went, I was so gobsmacked, I couldn't even take a picture. I was like so busy looking at what was going on. But this is that same concept like that, just even a paper plate with some dabs of paint on it. So one of the things I'm asking, so this was just me bringing an idea, but this is just those stick figures done in different ways. And this could be something like in front of the teen center or whatever, but trying to use that criteria that I threw out there and then figuring out a source of material. This is 3/8 rebar, which we've got tons of at the lumberyard. It's very inexpensive. And then, these can be installed either as a bolted down, item, or they could be movable. And you can just literally plunge them into the dirt. They may go away, but you could plunge them into the dirt, or you could set them in concrete, and they'd be, really easy to remove at a later date. But they really require zero skill in terms of that. You can see them as very dynamic, and I know back in the day, Mutter's Gutters, and any of you have been around, he used to make out of old, gutter parts. He used to make people out of old gutter parts, and they were, people would just be like, wow, he had them engraved and everything else, but they were remarkable. So I'm just saying, don't let that limit you. So anyway, I brought with me today, just a few things to maybe the idea to send out to the community. And I know you guys all do Facebook and stuff, but the idea of just us throwing out some ideas like this. If you guys saw something today and, I'm a get her done kind of gal, give me some ideas. I can probably source materials. I worked in construction for 40 years. I can source materials or leftover materials or whatever like that. And then if you can identify some places that you think would be useful that particular project might fit, I can maybe get it done. Just on the
potential financing. for it.
well, I don't really even think there's that much financing. I can get the metal guy to give me metal. I can get I built a teen center with zero money. If I could build an entire 40x80 building with no money, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, it's on my list, to do this. And I know Parks and Rec is probably the venue that would be the official venue for it, but I'm also,
Actually, as Parks and Recreation Commission, our focus will be on city parks. So
yeah,
there's separate folks who are working on downtown beautification and other areas. of the
Right.
city. So our focus would be on city park areas. And Christine Hall had found some low cost and maintenance free benches 2 years ago. And there was no interest, unfortunately, in putting additional benches here in the park, which, as you pointed out, really a shame.
yeah.
And you come up with some additional low cost ways. If you want to have seating areas, which can also be the subject of art. So our focus is kind of more narrow than yours, which is beyond,
Well, my
city park.
question is whether or not the idea of pocket parks is part of your venue. I mean, any empty space is a potential. We did a pocket park in Port Orford, for example, that was literally just an area that had been excavated accidentally during a utility change. And I was like, well, let's just fill it up with cool stuff. And so, and if any of you are aware, all of those walls that we did in Port Orford that are block walls that run the whole length that people sit on during the parades and everything, they run all through town. And there's planters and benches that we did. That was all done with inmates, very, very low cost to their Main Street program. And literally made all of Highway 101 a pocket park because you can interact and walk through this entire thing. So I hope that we don't get too narrow focus and say, yes, it has to be in a park per se.
Not,
But-
that wasn't my
Yeah, can
intention.
we
It's
see-
In terms of what we can promote, and
Yeah.
support, would be limited, the city parkland.
Uh,
And then the folks doing, the beautification downtown, I think they would love to see this presentation.
Well, I think Old Town is a whole project in itself in
Yeah.
terms of, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. That's why I have more pictures from this upland area and all that stuff. I mean, it's one thing to build it for other people that visit us, and it's another thing to build it for us that live here. And that's really where I'm coming from, is I walk a lot, and Laura, I know, walks a lot. How great to walk by these things that are just knock on somebody's door, do I have your permission? Can we do this? But it's not a driving hazard, it's not requiring maintenance, and it can move. Yeah.
We did at our school, middle school, had these big block benches, basically like that, but they were safety things so that people can't drive into the buildings and all of that. And they were just blank canvases. And I had the best principal in the world. And she just said, I said, can we mosaic them? And we basically mosaic the whole school.
Yeah.
And, local tile people would give us their broken and old tile or discontinued colors, and the kids, we set up safety stations with glasses, and they break them, and you just put them on, and they all learn how to grout, and it was the simplest thing in the world, and you can incorporate all the schools and different, or, different groups can, take on different themes on different ones, and if you have we need benches. everywhere, we know that, because, I mean, even on my little walk, mile and a half loop every day, once in a while I come through this one section, I'm like, we should have put bench here.
Yeah. And we are a community of older people, and we want people to stop for a second. And one of the things that we realized traveling is that, you know, we were doing a lot of miles, and if you don't stop and engage, you miss really critical stuff about a community, and I'm really pro-abandon, and I would like, that's one of the things I love about Airbnb is I connect with people who have never been in this environment and was able to download information or even say good morning or interact. We don't do enough of that with all the screens and everything that we've got these days, and I think it's a way to slow people down and get them to engage in our community more, which I think would result in less trash, less screens, less, you know, of those kinds of things that are disrupting, you know, communities these
Well,
days.
in our development off of Seacrest, there was a bench it was a wooden bench that had a big husky, you know, and it was part of the community development. It's on a corner that's, I'm thinking city property, right on the corner of Breckensport and Seacrest,
Yeah,
and that bench fell apart.
yeah.
It
Walter
made-
had put those in when he developed it. Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm thinking that would be, if we could get a block there,
Uh-huh.
we could do it as a project on our street, just
Yeah.
make it as an example.
Everybody
and
could
say,
put
this is
20
what it
bucks
would
in and we can get it, you know, get it done. That's what I say. I think.
And, but it's sad because older people come up that hill because they're trying to learn and
Yeah.
they can't sit anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
So what's our role? What's the commission's role in this? Yeah.
Just start thinking if you wanna maybe give the blessing when stuff comes your way, as the idea or concept comes back to you. The commission might wanna run a community Facebook, bring us your ideas, kind of a possibility. Parks and Rec is looking for input for small pocket park streetscape type, you know, art projects that meet this criteria. That's why I gave you the criteria, meet this criteria. Or just engage and see, you know, I mean, the two blank planters right out in front of the library would be a great idea. If you're walking out, just look and see, you've got two
Yeah.
blank canvases there, and whether you want to solicit
So
some,
we could
input.
advise the commission and have the mayor and commission consider what you're saying, just like you are, but we don't authorize that budget for that.
I don't think.
No, I
that's
think,
really-
what
yeah.
came up last time was the question of whether or not we would be supportive of additional art pieces in City Park. I think we have pocket parks identified throughout the city. You could totally add more. So I think if you were interested in it, Liza's just looking for support from this commission. Because it might come before you as, hey, they want to put an art piece here.
Mhm.
It's a good idea to put it out there, if you advise you to put it on the Facebook page, or if you have time to do that, that's more your call.
Or engage the school at saying Parks and Rec is, you know, opening the doors for streetscapes ideas. I worked with one of the art teachers at the high school and did amazing work. We had a mosaic that was here at the library that was destroyed by skateboarders, but we did a mosaic project that was here. And there's still some remnants of these tile mosaic pedestals that we did out
Are you gonna
here.
help them? Yeah, I feel like they need us.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I keep watching. Yeah, I think we can continue to talk about it and see what the role for the Parks and Rec Commission is. I love the idea of public art.
Yeah, I love the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
I know-
and not asking for money. I mean, I have
Yeah.
to say, it's not really something that, and from the public work standpoint, not burdening them further.
Well, and that's been the concern about
Yeah.
benches, was Tim just can't take on any more maintenance. You look at the bench outside, it's not looking great, and he
Yeah.
just doesn't, I know he would love to support it and just doesn't have the capacity
Yeah,
to.
and that's,
Right.
Like you were saying, if you want to do it in somebody's yard, that's one thing. Well, if you want to do it in the
Yeah.
right of way, then
Yeah,
it
Yeah.
becomes the city's
right,
agree. And again, just to say, you know, all we can do is say, hey, it'd be cool if we had a bunch of art here.
Mhm.
And, you know, and look, people have ideas and how we're gonna do that, send them your way.
Yeah, and I think this commission would be the ultimate authority that would be able to say, this is
We're
appropriate.
not.
Well, I know, but in terms of being able some sort of judgment to pre-screen, to say this is appropriate art, no
yeah.
maintenance,
Oh,
doesn't burden public works,
You're
doesn't require
recommending
money.
money, so you could make
Yeah.
a formal recommendation to the city
Right,
council.
yeah, so like, say I brought the metal sculpture idea that I had in the last slide to you, and I said, I'm gonna make 150 of these and put them around town.
That we can't handle. what we can handle is what's, in city park, pocket parks, parkland. So that would be our venue. Rather than
think you-
throughout the community in general.
I don't know,
Well, I think one of the things you could do is you could make some recommendations as to where these things could go. I say I have 150 made. Where would you put them? Where
I
do
think the planning commission would love to see this presentation.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Uh-huh.
So you probably get better mileage and more direct. Like you're already reaching out to public
Mhm.
works, hey, can you work on this, is it maintenance? And then can I put something here, is it in the way of traffic? All those are good questions.
They work with
but-
the cooperative.
but-
Yeah.
And we fielded that here, but there's really not much we can do,
Mhm.
except to say, yeah, we should have another bench right there, we're ready to order some, I think they're still in the warehouse.
I know, our benches and
They
bike
haven't
racks are
been
just
put up
sitting there.
Really?
So, I mean, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to.
How many of
I
them
want
do you have?
use your energy to, you have a lot of energy, you have a nice presentation, and you make good points. Better served to the people who can run, say go, or, we can't, we can say we support it, but we don't really have any
Mhm.
authority to say, let's. put
That's where I always start, is where the support is, not where the authority is. I'm just saying, if there's no support, there's no reason to go to the authority.
Yeah.
We were
So-
supporting it before we even got on this commission.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's wonderful and I really appreciate you taking the time to show us all these great ideas and hopefully it's something that we can incorporate into our work.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
well,
That
it's-
was a
it's
wonderful
like,
presentation.
The main thing was to get your mind to like open up a little bit, is that it's not expensive. There's not some great commissioned artist that shows up that,
Mhm.
you have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for. You're not gonna burden public works going forward. And, the purpose of it really is about community and about parks and recreation. And that's get out of your car, get into the landscape, figure out what it is that interests you in that landscape, and then stay in it for a little while, not just get back in your car and go.
Maybe if you're gonna put something together specifically, like, hey, we're gonna do a paint of coal day,
Mhm.
and then you put that logistics of that together and then presented it to the council and say,
Mhm.
I have your support to do this paint of coal day, and then
Mhm.
you run it up the pole.
Yeah.
And see, what kind
Yeah.
of response you get from the community.
Yeah,
I think that the idea, I feel like, and from my experience, I don't live right in town, but I think would be sympathetic to any kind of, color and, interactive stuff that makes you like, ooh or awe about things or.
Well, and I think the easiest place to start is, for example, in the parks, the
Mhm.
dedicated parks that you have in terms of, getting 5 of these people, these metal people standing on the islands here in City Park, would take me 15 minutes to install them. And we're done, kind of thing.
We've
That's
already
it.
started that for Staple Storyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
there-
Yeah. Yeah, so exactly something like that. And,
Yeah.
and even some of these things are even movable, or some of these areas are adoptable in terms of these corners of parking lots and things like that, that overlap with city. And I don't know if you end up having to make a designation of
yeah,
them as a park now because they're, under the corner of the Whiffling Corner.
I think we
Do
could,
they
that's where I
become-
I feel like the purview of this organization could extend to public art. I don't think that's out of the.
Or
realm of
streetscape. per
Yeah.
se, Yeah.
And then I was also gonna say Zach is a high school student,
Uh-huh.
and it sounds like this might be something.
I
that-
thought he had some little light bulbs going on
Yeah.
over his head. I think that's going on up there. Did you see him? Did you see him up there? Yeah. I teach a lot, so when I can tell when people are connecting and he's
Yeah.
connecting, so, yeah.
So that might be something that the
Uh-huh.
school could take on. some-
Yeah, like a drop class type of thing,
Yeah.
Like an art class. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Mhm.
or just like a student project to do some cool art pieces around the school, so
Yeah,
might chat about that.
okay, and we can maybe talk some more about that.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This is a
you're welcome.
wonderful presentation,
You're welcome.
very inspirational.
Yeah,
And maybe I'll get you on a planning commission agenda too then.
yeah, we're not talking about horse
Yeah,
for a
different.
change.
I'll do that. Public art. Cool, thanks.
All right, well, I'll exit stage left and let you guys get down to your business.
Well,
Unless
this
there's
is a
something,
delightful beginning.
well, it's always good to start with the fun stuff, right? Now you have to do the business.
I know, now we got business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with the
So up next, we've got, protecting trees and shrubs in City Park.
All right, well, this is a sad one because I talked to the tree committee about this already. But unfortunately, our public works folks mowed down all the brand new native plants that Christine and Darcy planted in City Park. That the city paid for and that a grant paid for partially. I know. So-
Last fall, or you're.
Yeah, all the Salal plants.
Right.
Yeah, someone didn't
The poles
realize.
were there, though, the poles were.
I think so. I don't know what happened. There was a miscommunication, but someone had a weed whacker and whacked them all down. So Tim called Darcy immediately, agreed to pay for everything all over again and help with replanting as needed, but I'm still feeling incredibly guilty and sad about the whole thing.
How many were we talking about?
I think it was like, I don't know, $500 worth of plants, maybe more.
Which translates into.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think it was.
The trees or?
No, it was all they were planting native plants around all the stumps and like the story walk, and they all just got mowed down. So I don't know how many total, because Darcy, they came from Darcy's place, so I'm not sure if they were discounted or what.
It's a good question.
1,000? Okay, so maybe, yeah,
Then the labor to plant them.
yeah. So, I felt like it could be something that we could assist with, or maybe this is the public art piece opportunity. We talked about, it'd be great to have little signs that said, I'm still growing, or some sort of art around the planting areas, whether it's painted rocks or something else. Tree subcommittee was interested in assisting with that, but wanted to bring it to you all as a potential project as well. To help out with, to just protect things from getting.
And then a little educational piece on the top of it.
Yeah.
Of the piece that can say what kind of plant it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a mea culpa from us. Sorry.
Everything's a learning experience. It's always trial and error.
Yeah.
Hire more people and get quick mowers.
Yeah, less opportunity for.
Or pull the stump so you can mow through.
I know, yeah, it was just a bad idea, or bad action, so, yeah.
Okay, the other thing that we had next from old business was dogs off leash in City Park.
Yeah, and I just kept it on there because last time we talked about it, I had looked into, we could get more signage, but then I was talking it through with city staff and I was like, well, people that we're having trouble with are probably already not reading signs, or city code or anything like that. So I wanted to bring it back to you and say, because I know we also get like sign fatigue, like I see so many signs and then I stop looking at any of the signs. So just trying to think of other ways maybe that we can do this in City Park, like make sure people are not having dogs.
Who's complaining?
Well, I think Steve you brought it up as an item.
Yeah, I noticed it wasn't folks from Bandon, but folks I would see lots of places from other states. If you're letting your dogs out of their car and just letting them run free in City Park. Obviously, the dog had been cooped up probably for hours inside the vehicle.
Usually they're sitting having lunch on a picnic bench, that
Yeah,
kind
and
of thing. Yeah, I do
dog
that too.
yeah.
Just wondering.
Yeah, so I felt like having more signage wasn't gonna help. Because I looked into the cost of it, it's not expensive to get signed, it's not expensive to get the little dispensers with bags, but I don't know, I was feeling like it's not gonna really.
Signage stands verbiage, that's where you get the sign fatigue. But like if there could just be a sign that would be some visual indication, keep your dog on a leash. Like when you're not supposed to drive down the street, they have you cross through it, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Regardless that, dog owners are different, period, and there's gonna be dog owners who, well, my dog's the best dog, and I don't know. Fine.
Dogs welcome if they're on the leash, make it more of a positive sign. And you could do one of your little sculptures that has a person with their dog on a leash, and then the
Yeah.
sign is on there that says.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Visual.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a friendly way of saying, for your safety and ours, please. keep your
Maybe
dogs-
that's a better option. I just felt like another sign with tiny font. No,
Yeah.
it's not gonna help the problem.
People do not like to read.
Yeah.
I know that very well.
Mhm.
Art, yeah, I think it's a great way to bring in
The
public
art,
art and
That's
painting.
a great
so
idea, Laura.
We'll keep that one on there and figure out.
That could be our first project.
I was gonna say, try that one and see
Yeah.
how that.
And even the one, like, even to bring people's attention to the dog bags, you know, I mean, these little poop stations are sort of icky.
Mhm.
But if you had a cool dog image that went with that, it would just be kind of
And they
like,
have to
yeah,
have a waistband next to it.
yeah,
Okay.
You grab a bag and you put your food back in there.
Yeah.
In the waistband.
Well, maybe that's Liza's first task.
Yeah,
then.
right.
Come back to us.
As a landscaper, I will say dog poop was really high on my list of
Yeah.
things, the municipal landscaper that I dealt with, so I'm an expert. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm an expert in it, I have a master's degree in dog
There
poop.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I'll
put it
work,
to good
I'll work
word.
on that.
Put it to
Okay.
good word. I think that's perfect.
It's hard, it's a hard thing,
Yeah,
because people assume, just like you said, my dog's good, or it's my.
It's always
freedom.
the ones who say that.
Yeah. Your dog is.
Yeah.
And they come over at little ones and they're hanging off your big dog. Literally, I had that happen. I'm like, oh, really? Friendly?
well, as a landscaper is running a mower, the people are walking a dog in front of your mower, like while you're mowing the shopping center.
Yeah.
They're like walking their dog right in front of you, and you're like, if I hit that, it's not gonna be good. And they're not getting that I'm doing that, and I can't be offensive, I'm in the service industry. So we actually have we had a training in my company, how to deal with that.
How to deal with people with
Yeah.
dogs.
And so we had little doggy bags, and you would stop the mower and you'd make a big scene out of it. You'd stop the mower, you'd go and you'd pick it up. Eye contact with the person smiling, go over to the by the Sea Gardens truck, put it in a waste receptacle,
Ugh.
get back on your mower and go. And they were like, why am I doing all that? Why are they just not walking their dog there? And I said, well, that's the public, you know, you're just gonna have to get used to it. But maybe next time they're doing it, at this little moment in time will sink in that you're
Yeah.
impacting people.
I mean,
Mhm.
what do you gotta do, you know,
Yeah.
spaceship over the top.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now the drone cameras, call 911.
yeah,
That's what we need, like a dog police.
yeah. Well, it's just an insensitivity, you know,
Yeah.
to people that are not, that are either service industry or people that might be walking in that area later.
Yeah.
Or it's getting better, it's from the back in the day, but it's still. I mean, I had homeowners that had dogs that wouldn't pick up when we came to mow their private property, and my crew would spend
Oh, yeah.
15 minutes just doing that, and I actually, you know, had that, you know, I have to send them a letter with their bill, said, you know, next time I won't mow, you know, if you don't pick this up,
Well,
not my job.
Charge them double for that
Oh.
15 minutes while you're picking up the food.
I know, it's like, I mean, but you'd just be surprised what you encounter, you know, on the street level, I'm just saying, I'm on the street level with it.
Well, as Ron Piper would say, you know, something completely different.
Yeah.
We've got the Johnson Creek Greenway Party.
All right, so I think we've decided on the date of September 23rd, weather pending, obviously, that's a Saturday. We'll have Tim mow the pathway. We're gonna do parking at the city parking lot and then just put cones in the road to make a pedestrian path down. I think that's the easiest way to do it.
The one down by Tish Tank.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna talk to Best Western too and see if I can get some parking there. And then there'll be a few like handicapped or handicap accessible spots like right on site. Not really a handicap accessible space because you still have to end up walking down, but for those who can't walk far, it's just gonna have
Can we
to.
get the chain removed?
I'll have to see. We can have people driving down there, but walking down, yeah.
Just to say, you have to do a little mod to get up to
Yeah.
the path,
Okay, the chain can be removed then just to get down
just
the
to
path.
get people past it.
Yeah, yeah.
And just an update, we have an active forest project going on in Johnson
Yes,
Creek. So,
yes.
yeah,
So we're hoping to have both tours of that area. I also need to be put in touch. Sam said she was interested in getting that native plant group that took a tour out there recently, to maybe get similar tour. So we'll try to do tours happening throughout the day, just kind of like snacks and lunch, and then really just come hang out. It's gonna be a bring your own chair party.
So the bridge that's there, where some people said don't walk across.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're,
But I walk across it all the time and it's fine. Sam walks across it all the time. Do we need? Yeah, it's gonna
We
be
will-
hard to not have people walk across.
yeah,
it.
we will not have people walking around.
But
We're
you're
gonna
gonna
have
need
a
to take
barricade.
it off or something.
Yeah, because it's just gonna be a little trail that you can walk out on the one side, like on the south side of the park.
But to make the loop, you have to cross the bridge. So
Yeah.
You're gonna have to create a loop that.
We
comes
probably
back.
won't, it'll just be in and out, so you can just
Okay.
kind of see, because a lot of people have never even been out on the site. I
Right.
feel similar, I like to be able to kind of go out there, or something similar to that, but I think we're just gonna have it open so that people can
Okay.
see it and get excited about it. I'm nervous about that bridge though.
Well, and that's an easy bridge to reconstruct. I built one of them for the inmates and just carried it down to the site
Yeah.
and stuck it in the.
Well, and I don't know, I know that site in particular has, the salmon bearing stream, so pretty much anything we do in there, we've got to get a lot of
Right,
DSL
yeah.
approval, so we're trying to keep it as minimal as possible. Just walking, but I will keep you in the loop on that project.
Okay, so I have a question, so, I guess some food's gonna be provided,
Yeah,
okay, great, and I'm gonna provide drinks.
yes,
So
Versus
my
regular
research
ice cream.
indicates that young people like Pepsi, and old people like Coke. Is that your experience? Younger people like Pepsi?
Expert on soda, right?
Yeah.
and old people
apparently
like Coke?
everybody likes this weird, because at National Night Out, the thing that sold out was like this. Like maybe what Sprite used to be or something, squirt. I don't know.
Some grapefruit.
No, maybe that's not, it was something that everyone was like, you got that drink, and I don't know what it was, I'll find out, but all the young people wanted this particular.
What's the latest? I mean, it used to be Mountain Dew. What is it these days that people? Out of the vending
What's your
machines?
favorite soda?
Dr. Pepper, strawberries and. green
Yes.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
That- that's-
Dr. Pepper,
I
greatest
feel
ice
what?
cream in the history of the world.
Okay, well,
Wow.
get some of those then.
Okay, so Pepsi is something called Sport.
Yes.
I think it's.
Is it a greenish bottle with
Yellow writing.
yellow writing?
Yellow can,
Is it yellow?
yeah.
Sport? I don't-
I've never heard of it before. Nothing.
Please don't drink it.
Like,
So Pepsi, for no on Coca-Cola?
I guess not.
Okay, so Pepsi regular diet, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think whatever you get will be fine. We can always we can supplement a little bit.
Plastic water bottles, and you can put them into art later.
Yeah, there you go. I wrote myself into the planning budget this year and and I think I have like $1,000 in it. And that was for stuff like this, so we can actually.
So did you have to get?
30. I don't
No,
know.
I like buying 24 packs and just, get several 24 packs.
That's when you keep them ice.
I think water.
Yeah, I can bring them both.
Yeah, we bought one of those big like orange Gatorade kind of things, so we can put water in those. And I don't know what food we'll serve yet. We still have hot dogs left over. So we have so many hot dogs.
Got Google's work.
Yeah. So I'll continue.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's Johnson Creek Green Bay
That's
party, it's gonna be
Perfect.
fantastic.
I'm gonna go grab Cody. We're gonna talk about the recycling. So you can start and I'll use.
Okay, so what we're looking at
Right,
next,
it's interesting
Plastic
thing.
roundup.
There it is, right there.
so it's a real thing,
Yeah, it is a real thing.
that you work 19 years.
No, no.
So that's what this is about, in these handouts, which we can pass around.
I wanna say.
So everybody's familiar with recycling that's done, like AKs, Moray's, or you go to this day, the water bottles. This is the other kinds of plastic, which you don't get paid for recycling, but which can be collected and then sent to Denton Plastics in Portland to chop it up and repurpose it. So they were very extensive and extremely well planned recycling events in Wayne County, in Eugene. And so they had a session where they gave us an orientation about what they're doing. And it's really quite elaborate, because you can't just fill up with the plastic the way you do your water bottle. The plastic has to be clean, labels removed, it has to be prepared in advance. If it's medicine bottles, prescription bottles, obviously they have to be thoroughly clean, labels removed and so forth. So the big thing for Denton Plastics, because I spoke to them as well, it's gotta be pristine plastic, because they're not gonna do anything else with it. But they have to receive pristine plastic, and then they chop it up and recycle it. So the big thing for us is to be able to, not for us, because the folks will be doing it, it's not a Parks and Rec thing. But the folks who will be doing the recycling is the public education will show up with the plastics. where they're good to go, to Denton, to work in the recycling. And we have our local expert here.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Cody Barkle. I'm the Assistant Library Director here.
And then, yeah.
Christine Kingsbury, Library Director.
So it's gonna be a program, we think, of the library, so they'll be sort of, we'll do it in this room and they'll take kind of the lead on that. But we brought it to the Parks and Rec Commission last time to see if anyone was interested, and Steve took a particular interest, which was lovely, so we wanted to bring it back to you to give you an update. I missed what Steve said, so I'm guessing he told you we did a little training with Lane
Well,
County.
it's an orientation, and the focus was on the plastic has to be in pristine condition with the labels removed, thoroughly clean. Because I spoke to Denton as well, I called them up, and they're a business, obviously, and they're only gonna take the stuff that they can just put right in the hopper and get it chopped up. So there's a lot of preparation has to be done, and a lot of community education, so that people show up with the plastic already prepared. So what we had was an orientation, but in terms of training, is there any thought that some of the volunteers could go participate in an event, in Wayne County? So the training would be actually hands-on, rather than just looking at PowerPoint slides.
I'll let you wanna talk about Tuesday? Yeah.
So, myself and another member of our little committee that's trying to get this going, Jen Karachi, she and I have been going to the Cruise Head Co-op. They have a monthly plastic roundup, and so we just started going,
Thursday, right?
it's once a month on every third Friday.
Oh, Friday.
Yeah, so they have, it's called Plastic Roundup. So her and I went, I've been a couple times now to ask questions, learn about the program, and just actively participate on the receiving end. And so they've been doing it for 5 years, so they have it pretty dialed in. And this is where we got a lot of our information then to move on with, they had been starting something in our contact with Lane County and everything. So that is a very close, they have one coming up on the 18th, which is next Friday. So they always want volunteers, even if you're not a member of the co-op, because I'm not, and I just emailed them and they said, sure, come, and then they just show you what to do, and you just jump right in. So the hands-on training in that regard, because they know what they're doing, I feel very confident in their program.
Have other people besides you participated in that training?
Jen Karachi and Katie,
Katie Doherty at Washington
the
Shore.
executive director of Washer Shore.
More people participated in that actual activity, whether it's in Coos County, or in Wayne County, the better.
Correct, I agree.
You have to look through this thing, which I've done several times in different states. You have to look through it to believe what's gonna happen.
I think once we have it up and running too, we can do that sort of training, like, I feel like what we went through was train the trainer, and then, you and Jen can feel comfortable training all the other
Absolutely.
volunteers who are there. how to
Kind of
do
a
it.
Top Gun approach.
Yeah,
I've mentioned it to several people, and we're all washing and cleaning and sorting our plastics now. So we have been, because we were so disappointed that we couldn't put them in our recycling thing. But, questions are like, do you have to separate them by number? Which I am assuming you probably would. And I think it's interesting, sometimes the lid and the container are two different plastics.
Yeah.
So you have to really look for them, but then once you get an eye for it, but anyway, I think there's lots of excitement about it. Everyone I've mentioned it to they're like, we'll be able to do it here.
yeah.
So they're very excited about it.
And it'll tremendously reduce, the landfill, the results.
Mhm.
My husband stopped buying particular things because of he's like, those yogurt containers, they're just killing me, to just throw them away. And now he's back eating the yogurt that he likes.
In preparation, well, and so it's number twos, number fours, and number fives. And then, I didn't know this, but learned this last time, you can already recycle number ones and number twos that are jugs or bottles.
With a net.
With a neck, yeah,
Has to
so
have
it
a neck.
has to have a
So
neck,
your clamshells are no.
yeah, they're a hard no, and then, Jen is also looking into restarting the battery recycling program, which has been gone for a while. So, we're trying pretty hard to do that, sort of getting as much as we can recycled here, without people having.
Yeah,
to
the
travel.
more distribution, we can get of this, and I think you have the other one, I think you have number 5, right? So the more people can see this, because visual, and as we discussed earlier, people do not like to read.
Yeah.
Well, the
And I know
has
this
a
is
really
future.
easy one that's.
So the more that people can see something, the better off they are.
Yeah, and I think our first event will probably be a lot of education, like, well, there's only so much, like you said, people don't like to read, and, there's only so much you can put on a flyer. You're gonna just have to come here and we'll just be rejecting stuff, and that's how they're gonna.
And you
figure
could
it
make a one and done board
out. Mhm.
that shows the different things on the board, and then that way people will have an understanding.
Yeah.
They're very visual learners that way, quick and easy.
I think that's great,
Nice.
and examples of what it
Yeah,
looks like.
So just get a bunch of stuff
And
to,
one of the most important things is the high standards of cleanliness.
yeah.
That's probably one of the most important things, is like teaching people, and they call it dishwasher clean. So you should be able to put it in your dishwasher, and for those who don't have a dishwasher, just means incredibly clean and dry, because we don't want anything. If it's incredibly clean, there should be no mold, so there should be no issue, and that's the goal.
Yeah, no smells,
No
no
smells.
nasty, funky.
Dawn is really great for cleaning it, especially if you soak it in oils beneath the label. Dawn's fantastic for that.
So
Oh,
How to
that's
Save the
really funny.
Planet had an episode on this, and they were saying it's run it through your dishwasher,
Mhm.
because it takes less energy and soap and everything else to run a dishwasher load than it does to wash them up by hand,
Mhm.
which I was like, but that's.
Is there a possibility that the city could set up a citizen recycling committee?
Probably not, only because I cannot staff another committee. There's not, like,
You got your folks right here.
well.
Committee,
This is a committee of just 4 people who are interested in the recycling program. If we become a city committee, we have to follow all public meetings law and notice and all that stuff, and I just genuinely do not have time to do another one of those.
Is any of this stuff dovetailed with what the dump is doing? I mean, is how.
I think not so much. We do, so next steps are, we have, Peter Braun is also on the committee, and he is scheduling meeting with Bill Richardson, who
Yeah.
does the ban and disposal, because we want to understand better where the stuff locally is going and how
Right.
it's processed and everything else. The other thing that we've learned through this process is that there is a bill, I don't know what it would
The
be
bill
called.
was passed last year.
Yeah, and it's something like the Recycling Modernization Act, and it essentially requires all cities over a certain size to come up with some sort of recycling program, and it's phased in over time, so it sounds like we have years before we're required to do it here. That's one of the things we want to do, is make sure that, ban and disposal is sort of on the same trajectory as us, as making it not a committee-run activity eventually.
Right,
'Cause,
yeah.
You know, we can only do it for so long, probably.
And they have a lot of experience in recycling. They have a pretty big recycling center there that they're dealing with, and so they can, that, I think that's not a bad
Yeah.
hook to, I mean, just find out what the pros and cons are up there, what it is that you can do to help them. I know they struggle with it up there, and they have all of the deposit stuff goes to Star of Hope
Mm-hmm.
up there. So, and that's actually, generates a fair amount of money.
Something with the new bill that's been passed is that starting in 2025, so there's a few years to prep for this. But the goal is to have recycling across the state of Oregon all be the same. So like right now, Portland or like more metro areas will allow way more things to be collected in their co-mingling boxes. Whereas opposed to Coos County, it's 1s and 2s and only certain kinds of 2s. So the goal for this bill would be to have the same everyone have the same access to recycling.
Does the bill give you any way to get, courtesy or finances to spur your operations then?
That will be a part of it.
Yeah, it sounds like they're putting the onus on the people creating the stuff that needs to be recycled, and part of that money will come back to local governments to help implement the program.
So then the city, we could advise the city to open the wallet for these guys and they put a number on, give them 50,000 to start or something.
We honestly don't think that the startup cost of it is that expensive. We already met with Marie Simons over at the Wild Rivers Coast Alliance. But when we started doing our budget, we were like, it's less than $1,000 to.
We will fund
to
that,
do
no
everything.
problem.
Yeah,
It's all over
so-
that,
Well, that's
yeah.
the thing, though, you always have people working for free doing all these
Oh, totally.
social programs.
Mhm.
That's the problem. I think we should kind of let them start throwing money at them.
I think, I mean, it was really interesting to talk to the people at the waste management. No, I think that's wonderful advice, because waste management in Lane County, they are all fee-based for their, for anything that goes into the landfill and haulers and all that stuff. So they had a master recycler and I don't know what Susan's title was.
Assistant,
Something like that, but they have two paid positions that are trying to divert waste from the landfill. And I thought, man, we should have the same thing
Well,
here.
And the franchise, franchise rights, that's that has been traditionally the way that we screw down money out of them. If they want that franchise and they want to be the sole provider of garbage service here, they do this
Yeah,
as part of a program that the city says that they want to do. So I
Yeah.
think you totally
There could
accept
be
for that.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can usually, and you know, you can match it or whatever, but that they need to provide this service as part of a mandate from the city.
And then plastic does pay Eugene.
it was
Try.
very,
5 cents a pound.
per pound.
Yeah,
and
That's
plastic
why
is
with the
like-
Third world, they can do the garbage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's very, and it's not profitable.
Lifestyle.
No.
That's not a lot of money than plastics.
I think Laura has.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could probably put it in the utility bill when it's kind of put together.
Mhm.
I would be at there, it's gonna be a huge response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that may be hard for our first one, so we may
Right.
have to tell people like, there could be a line and
Yeah.
don't come right at 5 o'clock or whenever we do it.
The
because
co-op-
Like the employment procedures that Wayne County was talking about, for people with appointments to show up to do the recycling, but that way you can kind of stagger it.
I have, personal experience doing that here at the library, and I don't recommend it.
It didn't work well at City Hall
It
either.
is, with our community and knowing our community, that is not something they're a big fan of. There are individuals who do, but, and the majority do not prefer that. The co-op, they open their doors, they do it inside like a loading dock. So you have to like walk up to it. They don't open that door until they are ready, 5 o'clock, 5:01. And then there's a line, and the first 45 minutes is a bit chaotic when people are waiting. Because some people are bringing in one little bag that they collected over the month, and some people are bringing in like totes
Year,
that
yeah.
they've, like a year's worth that they've collected. And then you, as the person receiving the plastics, we have to investigate, like, look and scrutinize every piece. A, to make sure it has that number that we need, and B, that it's clean. And you can get pretty quick at it once you start recognizing, like, if someone has a stack of yogurt containers, you know that the number is gonna be the right number, but you have to then look to make sure it's clean.
Everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you do about the folks who show up and, for some reason get impatient and just drop off and just drive off?
I've been there twice for multiple hours both times, and we found one bag like that.
What about the folks who show up with things that, need further cleaning?
So if it's real like light, we had like a little cleaning station that you said, hey, we just need to rinse this out real quick. But mostly you want to give it back to them. The people working it don't want to take it on, because you want to educate the folks and just explain, hey, we can't take this item because the machinery can't process it due to its, whatever it needs to be cleaned. But
Where would you have the cleaning station here physically?
what's that?
Physically, where would you locate the cleaning station?
It'd be in this room. We'd have a table set up. We also have a sink, but we probably end up using a bucket with like some kind of solution and a rag, and a lot of things to clean it here on site, we probably just need a quick wipe down, quick rinse, but if it's anything more than that, or if it's a stack of items, we would ask them, please take these home, clean them, and then return them next time. And we're well aware that someone might just go outside and throw them in the trash and never come back. We are aware of that, but we can't take on that responsibility. The same thing goes with any kind of sticky residue. We were thinking we'd have a Goo Gone station, but that produces its own,
Oil.
film. So they gave us tips on how to do that. So basically you just inspect it, give it back to the person and say, I'm sorry, we can't take this, and this is why. Please take it home, clean it, and then bring it back. And I said that so many times to people, and one person got upset, but they didn't even really understand the program. I don't know if they'll ever come back. Everyone else just said, absolutely, give it back, give it back. And then people were coming back and getting excited and saying, I brought this last time and it was gross. Look what I did. Like, this worked really well. And like, they're excited to share.
Yeah.
So,
Seems like you could make a short little half sheet that you gave back to people that explained it, so it's just
Yeah.
move things along more quickly and have that conversation.
and once people know,
Yeah.
and also I asked them, like, how do people get upset? And they said, there's a line of people. There might be 3 people at a table with their bags of plastic, and we're all helping them. It kind of turns into like a social pressure as
Yeah.
well. Like, they notice that everyone else's stuff is clean, everyone else's stuff is free of residue and
They just-
sticky. And then they just realize this is what we have to do, this is the expectations. And so then might never come back or,
Cross teaching.
Yeah.
People that would participate in this, I think, want it to be successful
Yeah.
and are willing to do this.
Yeah.
And that's, you're gonna get
Yeah,
that. kind of
it's
clientele.
voluntary and
Yeah.
compliance. We've seen that with the horse thing, you know, they're either in or they're not, you know.
Yeah.
They're in, they're,
Like leashing your dogs too.
Yeah.
You have personal responsibility.
Mhm.
It's a big one.
and you'll, like, maybe people will find out what brands of items they buy that are easier to clean and they'll buy those and not buy the ones that are hard to clean.
Never buy peanut butter again.
Like those labels, so,
yeah.
Stop buying plastic,
what's that?
stop buying plastic.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Well,
Reduce
it's not
ed
alternative
consumption is the goal.
Yeah, you can't get yogurt in anything but plastic
You can
or
make
cottage cheese. Well, yes, you can. And you can get the one that's like $5, it's this big and
One
glass.
serving,
But that's
Yeah,
about it.
last, then you have the little, we call it the peel.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing is like, there's a lot of times there's the plastic that gets stuck along the top, like a tofu container or something.
Yeah.
What they do is just recommend those stuff that's really hard to get off, just cut it off, cut that ridge off with scissors, throw that little piece of plastic away, and then you have the rest of the container that can be recycled.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I wish you were-
It's my passion, and I knew Dana was passionate about it too, so I emailed her.
That our bosses have both said we can work on this project, using work time.
Good presentations at the school and the next teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The kids would be so excited about it. They would teach their parents.
That's kind of like
Yeah.
Wash Shore is on board just as a support program, and so I think I could see them
Doing, helping out with
with
that.
Donna, like getting, that's kind of their outreach is wrapping that up, like, that's something we're gonna talk to them about.
Yeah, especially.
And if any of you are interested in volunteering at an event,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
we'll
us
need
know.
help, the more people, the faster it
Laura,
is for
you're
everyone.
already volunteering.
Yeah, right now, we really only have,
Do you have an event scheduled? Do you have?
No.
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 Well, let us know.
Hopefully soon, but we'll see.
I was wondering if there's seen an appliance or something that you could sit out there, you know, like have water. So if I came in, this is, can't take it, I could just go out there, there's some rags. and
Yeah.
Yeah,
some
we can do that, we can set up
little-
like stations, so because then if you don't wanna go home and just needs a quick wipe out, then getting it dry though is also like it's necessary to be dry, so depending on how fast that will dry.
Or if it's wet outside.
If it's, yeah, if it's raining outside,
It's rain, because where's the food go?
that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why we said we ended up finding out that our like supplies that we need are pretty limited, because we were like, well, we need a bucket, some water, some Dr. Bronner soap, and some rags.
It's
and
a
that's-
cooking oil, oh, no,
Oh, the
That's-
oil was for at home.
At home,
The
yeah.
donkey oil was there. So yeah, it's really, it ends up being very minimal.
where we need help, it would be, you know, spreading the word in the community, educating people about the program, and also having people here at the event to actually help with
Yeah.
the collection, because right now, we actually have just Cody set aside to do that. She's gonna.
That's why this is so great,
Yeah.
yeah, this is so visual,
Mhm.
yeah, I love these.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening to our
Yeah.
spiel.
Yeah.
We are both very excited.
Yes, we'll be looking for your date. I will.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
To volunteer or to drop off totes of,
I'll be able
I
okay,
mean,
good.
it's gonna be like once a month, so even
Yeah.
if like we
Yeah.
rotate, like we can,
to-
yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
think at least initially, it's important to overstaff so that you
Yeah.
can make sure that people aren't frustrated and don't come back the second month, you know?
There's
Yeah.
a little blurb in the next newsletter, utility
yeah.
newsletter saying, if you have an interest in recycling, we're forming a group that's
Yeah.
going to help bring it to our community. That maybe you can build your volunteer base
Mhm.
there and then start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that utility.
Are they always going to be on a Saturday?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Yeah, I don't think we have a date set.
This library closed on Monday, right?
Well, we used to have a great opportunity at the recycling setup that they had there, you know, with all that. So, and it was, I mean, it was packed on Saturday, It was very social. It was a whole thing, you know, so. Like I said, that worked really well back in the day, reinstituting something that was like that would
Yeah.
not be hard to do because people remember it.
Yeah, the co-op does it on a Friday night from 5 to 7, but also knowing our community, I think a morning would
Yeah.
probably be better.
Weekend morning probably. yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so we'll keep you in the loop, as we develop educational and marketing materials, and then hope that you will all help spread the word.
And volunteers.
And volunteer.
And participate.
Yeah. Bring those Nancy yogurt containers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next we have the tree subcommittee.
All right, Steve requested that I bring just an update of what they've been working on. So in addition to approving a number of tree removals, they are also updating the tree removal permit, and they are updating a tree guide. So Sam has done the majority of the work on this, but developing a shorter, a more concise and picture-oriented guide for people, because like we said, we know people don't read, that shows how and when you might plant certain trees. That's one of the things that when we discuss as the tree subcommittee, or we get requests from the public, they tend and they say, well, I'd replant a tree, but I have to remove this one because it's interfering with my utilities or it's on my roof. So Sam created a great diagram that shows how tall your tree should be, how far it should be from your house, and whether or not it has deep roots, and then came up with lists of trees and shrubs that could be planted in place once a tree is removed. So that's been their big task right now.
Yeah,
And I,
Samantha did a fantastic job on this tree guide. I think she's revising a little bit further. maybe?
yeah, it'll come to
Yeah.
you guys for approval, I think maybe after their September meeting, so look for it in the fall.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and they also requested that we do the tree planting event on November 18th. So put that on your calendar to do our annual tree planting event.
Great. And then, okay, so I think something here about disc golf complaints.
Yeah, we can do that one first. So we did get a complaint about the disc golf course where there's a hole that's over here where when people are throwing it, the woman said that the disc golf is going into her yard. I did talk to some former Parks and Rec commissioners because I was kind of curious. We've had this disc golf course here for quite some time, and I'm sure that's not the first time we've gotten a complaint about it, but that's one of the new holes. And a former Parks and Rec commissioner let me know that when they first put it in, they got tons of complaints about that. And what they said to the person was, well, that's just what happens when you live next to a city park. You're gonna hear noises, there could be things flying into your yard. And they pretty much said, too bad, so sad. But I wanted to bring it to you all to see if you have any different feelings about it or different ways that we should approach it.
This is one isolated
Mhm.
comment.
Well,
Yeah. We have gotten other comments about, like, you know, some people feel, that when someone's playing disc golf course, if they're walking, they're scared it's gonna hit them. I think generally, we've said most disc golfers know to wait for people to walk by before they throw, but sure, there's gonna be like, I'm a horrible thrower. If I threw, I'd probably like hit something. Or, yeah, ugh. It's just, it's gonna happen.
It's so they're made the national news the other night about pickleball and all these places that have pickleballs adjacent, very close to neighbors that everyone's complaining and that they're up in arms because of the noise. Thankfully, our situation isn't like that. But it's the same thing. I lived near an airport and we were complaining about the airport noise and I was actually put in the paper, they said, well, why'd you move next to an airport?
Yeah.
So,
Like the
be
person
careful
who
what
like
you
the
say.
foghorn moved to the jetty. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, really?
No.
I mean,
Cut it down.
As the wife of a mariner, I've just got to say, like, really? Yeah, that thing saved lives,
Mhm.
Well,
so,
Laura, you
yeah.
have any complaints about pickleball, right?
No, no, and I mean, we had one golf guy and he inadvertently, it kind of came into where we
Yeah.
were playing. I'm sorry, we're like, it's no big deal. I mean, it happens,
Everybody's
you know.
recreating, people,
Yeah.
yeah, they throw their tennis ball for the dog and it gets away from them.
Or if the child's playing it, that's
Yeah.
something could fly into their yard. I mean, it's.
Is there an opportunity to move that particular, is that the big offender? Is it a possibility to move that thing 15 feet? And
Well, I think that's where you decide if one complaint makes it a big offender or not. I mean, they are put in concrete in the ground, so they're pretty permanent. I mean, we could shift it, but I would say,
Places by golf
Yeah.
courses, they wind up putting up.
Right,
netting
yeah,
or
and
Something
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
No,
but
but
that's-
people's windows get hit by golf balls and
Yeah.
the golfer doesn't pay for the window. It's the fact that you live on a golf course.
Yeah.
This is gonna happen, so.
Is the city considered a serious enough that some netting would be put up or a tree would be?
but I think
put up or
that's,
something?
we would not put it up.
Yeah.
They could put up netting.
Personally, I would think
You mean
that
the
it'd be
disc golf
worth
people
one.
put that in?
No, the property owner.
The property owner.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where I'm not providing legal opinion at all, but there is a term called coming to the nuisance, where it means if you moved next to a city park and then later complain about activities within a city park, you sort of knew that that nuisance could be there when you moved in or built your house. So I think that term might apply here, but I'm sensitive to the fact that it must be a bummer to get disc golfs in your backyard all day too.
So if if it's a persistent problem, maybe we could have some volunteers that would assist in putting some netting up to help them put some netting up to maybe preclude that problem, but.
Some of the disc golfers, would they be
Yeah.
willing to, or, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't wanna lose their disc. They're
You
expensive.
know,
Yes, is that what's the problem?
I don't know. You were the one who heard the complaint.
Yeah, she was, I was walking around where I think the area is, and in my just normal person brain, I'm like, how does that, I don't understand, physics, how
It could get in there.
it could get in.
So it's, yeah, I don't think it's like, it's not hitting her house or
She
hitting
didn't
her.
call the
window.
city, she just happened to see you
She
and
called, no,
mentioned
she
it.
called the pay.
She did, okay.
Yeah.
Did she leave the conversation relatively okay?
No, she's annoyed that there's this golf. She's just annoyed that there's a disc golf, hole that, the disc golf, I think that it's just hitting the fence.
Yeah.
mm,
So I don't think people are going into her yard.
Say it again.
I don't think people are going into her yard or anything like that. She's got a 6 foot tall fence up.
Within the fence, it didn't go into your yard, did it?
I don't think so. I don't know.
So maybe it's the.
I'm sure she hears them talking and everything when they go to collect their discs,
I mean,
and, you
that's
know.
another thing like
Yeah,
having the
yeah.
dog on the leash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That city park, somebody's not gonna have their dog on a leash.
Another art project for me, to have
That's
this
what-
guy that has his hands up like this.
Careful. Okay, so I think what we can do is monitor it. If we continue to get complaints, we can look at that particular hole and see.
Well, the other question is maybe to ask her, if this is a big enough problem for you, this is gonna cost us X number of dollars to move this
Oh,
thing.
yeah, and yeah. And she can pay for it.
And would you like to pay for it to be moved? Because we don't really have the resources to do that. You know, here's a couple different solutions we can try. Would you
Yeah.
like to purchase a sign that you put on the outside of your fence?
Yeah,
You know, I mean, is there something that you want to contribute to the problem you are kind of falling into? You live next to the park syndrome. But if we want to find a solution, can you be part of the solution, not just the problem?
I think that's a very civil and kind way to put it.
yeah. With my experience though, it's tricky when you start giving lots of options to someone who's disgruntled anyway. I think like. I'm just thinking how this conversation is gonna go when I call her
We
back.
can think about it
Okay,
at work and see how we might come up with something kind and productive.
kind
Okay,
of,
so
no.
for other commissioner comments, Laura, did you have anything about pickleball?
Just
Okay.
gonna say, I'm sure you've all seen the pickleball courts out there. We have had a robust, energy in and around that. Everybody's liking them.
It's beautiful.
Today when I came in, I couldn't play this morning because of the news, but, they were the first time ever for net set up and fully all fine out there.
Right.
So very cool. Everybody's excited.
Mhm.
And I think the checks have been coordinated for payment and everything's good.
Fantastic.
Good job,
Yeah,
yeah.
they did a great job. Okay, so I've got two things. One of them is, so Christine Hall has been talking with Margaret Pounder of the Chamber of Commerce about the Cranberry Festival. And she wants to have a skateboard demo there.
I talked to Christine about it and she said she did not want to do that anymore. That's why it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, the lady, who's involved in this, there was a wedding in the family and then she had surgery. So she wasn't sure that wedding was gonna come through. Margaret Pounder told her, even relatively speaking, last minute, if somehow this could be pulled off, they'd be interested in it. But I told Christine once, if we can't do it at the Cranberry Festival, we could do it at another time.
I think the problem is actually that the person has to carry insurance
Right.
to host a project like that, and she doesn't want to.
Right,
So that was why Christine asked me to just not.
yeah, and Margaret was looking into that as well.
If there's another option where someone else could carry the insurance on her behalf, but yeah, we couldn't
Right, So just wanted to give you that, that's on the horizon, a skateboard demo, which sounds like a fantastic idea. And would certainly be a nice promotion for the skate park.
Mhm.
So it certainly ties in with what we're doing. And then, I've got another item for you folks.
Okay, and I apologize, but I have to leave, so I'm gonna leave Kristen in charge.
Friends of Van Park has a new website.
Yes.
FOBPR.com, if anybody wants to look at it.
It was lovely to see you all.
Have a good safe trip.
Thanks.
So I'll give you a moment to, so.
Very interesting. You guys got a lot going on. That's great.
Thank you so much for coming. That was wonderful.
Ready to come to more.
Love to have you again.
Okay. Like, oh, where's the sick people with me?
I'm back.
I'm not doing committees. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I get
I'm a
that,
one-woman committee.
I get that one.
I get it done.
We've well established that we don't like to read.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
can you just like give us the net?
Well, this is such significant information, I want folks to have it in writing. So you don't necessarily have to read it now, but you should read it at some point. So the gist of this is, in terms of the rubber mulch, basically, we need to get it to a secure landfill. And that's the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and they're pretty much insisting on it. So that's what we're going to have to do. So we're going to have to figure out how to come up with the money to be able to get this. Your recommendation is that we could use a city dump truck and get it to Beaver Hill. Beaver Hill doesn't hold on to it. They transfer it to a facility which is specifically set up to be able to safely encapsulate the rubber mulch so that it doesn't cause any groundwater contamination. And that's included in the $74.75, whatever the figure is, that we pay, that we pay to Beaver Hill,
Total comment,
50 tons,
I mean, for the whole thing, now.
50 tons,
So we need a little less than $4,000.
yes. And that includes Beaver Hill within that price, takes it, to be disposed. It's a site near Medford that's specifically set up for this. And this is what we're gonna have to do. If the Department of Environmental Quality is gonna always do anything else. So our problem is gonna be an affordable way to be able to get it to Beaver Hill. Once it's at Beaver Hill, they take it from there. We have to figure out how to get it to Beaver Hill, and we have to come up with the,
You're saying,
less than $4,000.
you're saying, question is the Beaver Hills site, for them to figure out how to stockpile it.
Well, Beaver Hill just takes it and they do this regularly, we take it from the Medford.
They have
The hardwood chips to be, yeah, we have to take responsibility for getting it to Beaver Hill. What DEQ suggested was, the cheapest way to do it would be to use, if there's a city dump truck available, would be to get it to Beaver Hill.
All right.
So they said by far the cheapest way for us to do it is that, rather than trying to take it, to Medford ourselves, obviously, taking 50 tons of Medford ourselves would be terribly expensive. Plus, once we get it there, naturally, they're going to charge us as well. Whereas if we just get it to Beaver Hill, they take it from there and it's out of our hands. And we know that it's going to be disposed of in an environmentally secure way. So our options are limited. We have options, but we're limited.
You're gonna pay the $4,000,
the $4,000.
the city.
It's the city's responsibility to put it in there to begin with. The city's gonna have to come up with 4,000 and figure out how to get it to Beaver Hill.
So do we do a request to, work,
Public works.
public works if they have the trucks on the?
Yeah, we have one. We have a couple.
Do you have dump trucks?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
It's really good. Fun.
And the cheapest way to get. it to
I don't know if
Beaver
you
Hill-
can make it up the hill though. So,
It doesn't have to go off these, or it doesn't have to get to these.
The good news is, once we get it to Beaver Hill, it's out of our hands, and we can sleep well at night, knowing it's been environmentally disposed of in an appropriate way. The DEQ is, I mean, they studied chapter and verse about why we have to do it this way. I contacted them, so I was hoping that they'd have some money for us, which they don't, and they were emphatic about that, so there's no money in it for us. From them, they just provide the regulations by which we have to do it.
Do we need a motion? Do we need to
No.
do something? It's just, it
No,
is
it's
information,
just
so noted.
You know, I distributed to members of the committee, so you folks would be aware of it, and then there's a copy for Dana
Yeah, yeah.
Planning
we'll get
department.
it.
to follow up on it.
I mean, I think that's a
I
four
think that's
thousand
actually a good
dollars.
solution.
Yeah, because weren't we talking, wasn't it like $10,000 or something?
Something
Like
like
that?
Austin last year, he wanted $8,000.
Yeah, and I'm like. well,
Half is half.
Yeah, half is half. Yeah, so
I mean,
it's,
Half's
I wish you had better news.
well, it's what it is.
I'm sure that the city can find $4,000 for removal of that equipment. When are you guys installing the new equipment?
November, December, Dana said, if it's not fixed, when it's gonna arrive. And then it's gonna be professionally set up, and we'll have to have the rubber chips out before then. Which is just gonna leave us basically with the concrete break in there
Yeah,
until we get the engineered wood fiber. So she's also coordinating that, the engineered wood fiber is gonna fill up that concrete holding it right now. Which is gonna look great, right? I mean, it's gonna look really good.
well, I'll pass this over to Dana. One more thing. August 22nd from 4 to 6 PM, there's a streetscape thing happening here. I don't know, that's what I'm
What is
reading.
that streetscape?
Downtown streetscape meeting thing, it's a thing. I don't know, that's all.
All the streets,
But,
well, you're saying there's a meeting here.
yeah, there's a meeting here on August 22nd from 4 to 6, talking about the downtown streetscape with, GBA, I
Oh,
think.
gosh. That's nothing we need to.
Nothing that, no,
Just
but,
FYI.
FYI.
Okay.
That's it.
I think that's it. Well,
Now we've got
Yeah.
eradicate work that our neighbors have. I got people already over there working.
Or,
Garbage road. And
All these social issues, like those, how they leave.